there's nothing wrong with coming home and meditating and sitting with spirit. All of that's really important so that you come from an embodied place. But just make sure that you are staying in the game. Stay in the game, because that's the only way you're going to disrupt a system is if you're in it.
Welcome to Cosmic RX Radio, a podcast that gives you real-life tools of spiritual empowerment and pure hype. I'm your host and intuitive guide, Madi Murphy. I'll be serving up your weekly energy readings, cosmic boss interviews, and astro inspiration. Are you ready to love yourself more, manifest your dream life, and own your magic? Let's jump in. Hello, my baddies, and welcome back to another episode of Cosmic RX Radio. This one is a very special edition. It is one of our In the Cosmic Zone series where I get to interview and talk to and hear more about people I think are living in the cosmic zone in honor of my upcoming book coming out. And this human being is so much in the cosmic zone that I mentioned her in my book, y'all. We're talking to Shantani Moore. She is a body intelligence coach. Okay, I can't wait to get into this more with you. And a former mentee and just a beloved bestie and soul friend of mine. She's done so many amazing things in this one lifetime. But right now, I'm going to say, get your pen and paper out, prepare to take notes as she takes us to school. She is the secret sauce behind so many people's success. People who are changing the game, and she can be yours too. She specializes in nervous system performance, and she's worked with the top 1% of global wellness leaders, celebrities, corporations over the past decade. She's been featured in major outlets, Women's Health, Equinox, Lululemon, but more importantly than all of that, she is authentic. She is the real deal. She is a cosmic catalyst for change and for you to not only live in alignment with your highest self and be your highest self, but really feel grounded and well-resourced and nourished while you do it. Shantani has already helped and inspired thousands of people all over the world to claim the lives they want and retire the status quo lives they've been sold. And that's why I am so excited to talk to her and get into all of that and more. And especially her nonlinear journey to this moment, because are the journeys ever linear? So Shantani, welcome to the pod. How are we doing today?
Thank you for having me and that gorgeous intro. I could not have asked for a better one. I'm doing really well. We just said a beautiful prayer right before this, and I am feeling clean, clear, cosmic, under control. Okay? We are feeling it. So I
bless
can't wait
the
for
goddess for that prayer. You just took me through the body intelligence moment there, because at the time of the recording, it's Mercury retrograde shadow. You know, Mercury always comes from my ass in the retro shade. I had batteries dead in my car today. I had blowouts all over my white couch from my toddler. And then microphone's not working. And then you took me through that prayer. And now I'm like, I'm grounded. I'm embodied. Who me? Worry? What? I'm so here. So
who's she? Who's worry?
Who's she? So it's like the medicine's already working, baby girl. I am so excited to get into your journey today. And, I've been reflecting so much about how long we've known each other and who you were when we started working together versus now. But before I get into all of that, we got to do the cosmic bio. Can you tell everyone your big three for reference?
Yes. So I am an Aquarius moon and a Libra sun and a Capricorn rising to the 28th degree. Okay, so we have the strategies. We are here with the receipts, baby. Okay, I need a receipt.
That's why she has the receipts, okay? She has the soul, but she has the structure and the strategy, okay, honey? This is not just, we're not airy-fairy. We're here on Earth doing Earth work. And this is why I love, my Earth sign culture, because I feel like you and I are always yes, this is all amazing, but what are we doing with this? How are we helping? Right. How are we changing the world? How are we getting rooted? How are we getting grounded? Okay? So we love that big three. So beautiful. And I teased this in the opening, but you are one of the real ones. Now listen, no shade, but actually plenty of shade to people out there. There's a lot of authentic bitches out there and bros. No, truly, I don't leave the house much anymore. And then I go out to like an event or I meet people and like whether they're like famous or whether they're like top of their field or like influencer or coach or just like an everyday person and they're beautiful and like there are on the soul level, they're beautiful. But, you know, I live in Montauk, which is part of the Hamptons. I have seen people who are coaches, mentors, spiritual people who like don't tip their servers or like littering on the beach or just being a general asshole. And I'm like so grateful for you and people like you who are exactly who you are online, as you are in our sessions, as you are at home with your fiance. So, you know, I think part of what I think is so beautiful about your journey is you've been so true to yourself and you're always on a journey to like come back into yourself and release that like performative success that we'll talk about is obviously part of your journey because it's part of all of ours. And I was thinking about that first session, the first time we talked, and I remember seeing so much of myself in you. Obviously, like we're very different, come from different backgrounds. We look very different, but I was like, nope, the energy is there. The frequency is there. So can you take us back to maybe who you were before you were body intelligence coach, like crushing it in this mind-body connection universe and what your life looked like then?
All right, y'all, let's go back. When I met Madi, I was a professional dancer, singer, dancer, actor. I live in Los Angeles currently, and a professional fitness coach. So I worked with people in movement in many capacities, and so much of my life was about output, performing for performance sake, whether that be on stage, on camera, in the studio. And I, as it usually does happen for most of us, was starting to hear this whisper of my ambition calling me in and
Mm,
asking me the deeper questions of why am I actually doing this? Why do I
mm,
want to help people transform their bodies? That was the thing that I think any fitness instructors who are out there in the podverse, y'all listening, you'll hear when people ask you like, why do you coach? I'm like, oh, I really want to help people. And you're like,
yeah.
yeah, that's true. And it's also, I'll be honest, it's vague. So it's like, I want to help people. I'm like, well, I'm so glad that you're not an asshole, but what do you really want to do in this world?
So, see, this is the
Okay,
realness. This is the realness we're talking about, and I love
I'm
it.
telling you, okay, this is me. Okay, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Don't worry. I'm with you. So I spent a lot of time and I was feeling this cognitive dissonance for myself, whereas the more that I dove into my own inner work, the more that the messages that were being fed to me through the industry didn't make sense. They didn't make sense and they didn't feel authentic. And so that naturally led me down this journey of my own spiritual path. I was a fitness instructor and also a yoga teacher and began to dive deeper into energetic work, Reiki, sound healing, things that didn't have to do with getting a sweat, and really actually going back to the original, authentic principles of yoga, right? Which is an entire philosophy. It's not just a workout. So, with that, I found myself asking for more, and I found the Cosmic RX, as most of us do, and started listening to the pod. And once I started working with you, I really felt myself get called in to my fullest expression. It wasn't so much about me being someone else, and it wasn't about me even reinventing myself. It was more about me going, what is the truth of my lived experience? And how is that the medicine that I'm meant to share with the world, you know?
Yes, yes.
So, with all of that and with our work together, which I'm sure we'll get into more in the story, but that's where I was. I was burnt out. I was performing for a paycheck, literally and figuratively. I was bypassing my own instincts, my own intuition, and I was afraid. I was afraid. I was
Mm.
afraid that if I was honest about what I knew to be true, that I would have to sacrifice my sense of belonging and fitting into the industry and keeping up with the wellness girly aesthetic. And Spirit just had a different plan for me, girl. She was like,
Yes, she
"Mm,
did.
no, lovingly, we are sick of your shit."
That's cute. but no. I love that. And I'm sure so many people listening can relate to that feeling too, right? Like everything you said from wanting to help people, but maybe I think kind of vague towards maybe like signing up. But we understand like we meet ourselves where we're at. Maybe we're like, oh, I want to help people. So that feels like transition from being a dancer to helping people with their fitness. And you're like, okay, great. And you're like, and then that into helping them more energetics. And it's like, okay, all this stuff it's like a little like breadcrumbing, but it's also this there's something more, there's something more. And also I relate to you a lot because I feel like I started this journey too, being like, I want to help everybody. I want to help everybody. And spirit's like, first you're gonna sit down and we're going to crack you all the way the F open. Then we're going to bend you over. Then we're going to spank you. Then we're going to make you peel off your skin and transform from the inside out while being really raw and vulnerable. And you have no idea what's going on. And then I'm like, okay, when do I get to help people? And they're like, child, no, you're just like, I'm going to help people. And they're like, first, actually, quick reroute to absolutely soul explosion, implosion, breakdown, breakthrough. So, that kind of I do want to talk about the discomfort, right? Like at least my mentorship and this book, I really talk about this like concept of the cosmic zone. It took me a while to articulate what that is, but it's like when we're feeling called to leave our comfort zone. And in some ways, maybe we're like, it's comfortable there. You talked about the belonging, the safety, the aesthetics. It's like when everything on paper is fine, or maybe it's not fine, but at least it's like getting you by. You're like, I know how to survive here. But in honesty, you really are looking at yourself at the end of the day. There's something that just feels off, whether you feel lost, whether you feel disconnected, whether you feel spread thin, whether you feel like you're living in someone else's version of success. But there comes a moment, right? Unfortunately, for a lot of us, it's not like we just decide one day for no reason at all, just kind of happy. It's a nice day outside. I'm going to have a matcha latte and just completely uproot my very existence of my career, my identity, my relationships. There's usually like some cracks that begin to form beneath the glossy exterior. And with that comes like a hole ripping wide open. So would you mind sharing with us a little bit of like, what were some of those cracks? Because I want to say that when I met you, I was like, oh, this girl is living the LA wellness girly dream on paper, right? Like the brand deals, the cute Insta, the personality, the body, the life. And I was like, okay. But then you're like, something here is not aligned. So can you walk us through maybe what that felt like from your perspective?
Thank you for calling that in because I found you right. I remember our first call. I think you were like, so you just entered your Saturn return. And I was like, who's she? Literally, who is she?
I'm sorry, what now? I'm sorry, what?
Literally. And I was like, wow, the timing when when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I'm going to talk about two big moments that really shifted my trajectory. One of them was physical, and one of them was deeply energetic and cleared everything from the inside out. So the first pivot point was when I was teaching during our favorite year, 2020, okay? I was teaching outside in a parking garage fitness classes because that's all that the studio had decided was like, this is going to be our solution. Well, long story short, I was teaching, I was moving bikes outside, moving weights outside, moving mats outside, waking up at 5 a.m., doing all that schlep, then teaching 3 back-to-back classes, and then moving everything back, right? And I was doing this almost every day. Now, one day when Spirit said, I'm sure if we looked at the astrology, it would totally make sense. But I remember at the end of this class, I laid down at the end of the yoga portion. I was in Shavasana and I decided to lay down because I could feel myself burning out. Like I was feeling that dissonance and I was like, let me just lay down. And I laid down and then I started to go, all right, everyone, deepen your breath, awakening them out. And I couldn't get up. I physically went to move and get up, and I physically could not move my body. Meanwhile, the manager at the time was like in the bathroom, so it was just me and the clients. And I had my mic on, and I had some like juicy like 90s R&B slow jam playing or something. And I was like, I cannot get up.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, and that's a form of, I had a moment of trauma-induced paralysis where my body physically shut down. And we were joking about it earlier, but literally my body was like, we are not taking another step forward. You are done. And
Yeah.
luckily, I tell the story often, but I was really saving this part for this podcast because I know y'all baddies will get it. One of my now friends was a client in the class, and she does energy work. And at the end of the class, I finally did my own energetic magic nervous system regulation to get myself back able to get up. And she came up to me at the end of the class, and long story short, she said, I don't know how you keep up with all of this energy all the time. You're so great, da 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 da. And I told her, I was like, well, actually, let me tell you what just happened. And her and I performed an energetic exorcism on me in that moment. And I broke down into tears. And it was 10 minutes before the next class. And it was the first time where I really felt two things. One, if you push yourself to that point of burnout, will be, if you push too far, there will be a point where you don't have a say. And two, the magic is real. Because she literally got me back to the place where I was able to, I wasn't completely, not that you're ever completely healed, but I hadn't completely learned the lesson. So I did teach the next class. But that was the first moment in my life where I said, okay, this is the first time it's gone out of my hands. And that's really scary. It's really scary. And then the second one that Maddie knows oh so well. I had for those of you who listen to the pod a lot, you may have heard about Maddie's Goliath moment back in the day with a very famous coffee joint. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. And I had, okay, I'm just going to leave it right there. Okay. And I had that moment with a very famous fitness company. And for those of you who've been following me for a long time, you know the tea. But I, through my work with Madi, was coming more into my own body and realizing how much working on my nervous system and everything that I was also learning and teaching as well was really being integrated. And in that, my body changed. My body physically changed, and I started to have a more womanly form. I didn't look the same. And I had booked the biggest deal of my entire career, the biggest brand deal. And my face was plastered on all of the marketing material. And the day after the launch, they dropped me from the project. And I immediately, my Libra shadow was like, I offended somebody. I did something wrong. Oh my God. And I, Cap Rising was like, let me get the receipts. Let me see what we're doing. And long story short, I found out that the person who was my direct higher up, who was in charge of all of the talent, decided that he was not happy with the fact that I had gained weight. And so he let me go. And it was really, really hard. And I talk about it a lot in my work. If you follow me, you'll get to know this story even more. But it's I was really grieving in public the fact that I had finally started to come into my own skin and literally take up more space. And I felt at the time that I was being cut out because of it. So all of my core belonging wounds, all that stuff came out. And long story longer, in conclusion, it really taught me, Saturn said, girl, sit your ass down. You are not listening. You are not listening. And I remember I had prayed for divine intervention and I got it.
I'm like, okay, first of all, every time we tell that story, the second story, I get so angry again. I feel like I'm in that Pretty Woman scene. I'm like, big mistake, huge. And we know that to be true, obviously. But it's so interesting, right? You're like, the second that I started taking up more space, being in my body, yada, yada, and starting that journey is really being in your power. It's interesting that one, the powers that be were we cannot handle this, whether they knew consciously or not. And also the universe will really be giving you those moments to be am I going to stand 10 toes down on this right now? That I'm no, this is a journey, right? It's going to kind of give you taught me about the buffalo analogy. will you have the strength to face this like head on and just go right through the storm? Because that's like on the other side of that, right? Is where we go into some more that like cosmic zone living. And I remember just being with you, and it was during like very literal eclipses happening, 10th house and your public image and your professional life and so much transformation. And I really, because I had been through something similar, I was like, it's like when you're getting ready for that storm. I'm like, okay, the buffalo. I'm like, okay, Sean, this is going to suck. It's going to suck. It's going to suck a little bit more. And then it's going to start to suck less and feel better because you chose yourself, right? Instead of backing down. And when we talk about, I featured you in the book. I could have featured your story in 10 different chapters, but even as you're talking, I'm thinking about where you have your second house of values is shared by the Aries house. And in my book, the first thing I open up the book with, we have to go into that Aries energy, right? Like for all of us, these keys are like permission slips, pep talks. And the first thing we need is like, why not me? But really, it's just the antidote to the good girl complex because we all have it. And I think good girl energy is very Virgo. We talked about Chiron energy, who's just like, oh, I'm sorry, did I offend? And then right behind Virgo is Libra, being like, okay, I'll write you a thank you note. I'm so like, let's just go back and place the shadow of those signs, right? And so for you to practice and exhibit taking up more space and more power and immediately have that zap to the Chiron, and the fact that like those are moments where we can kind of be on that growth edge of our cosmic zone, and instead we have two options, like recoil all the way back into the old programming, into the place of like fear, hurt, worry, wounding, or again, it doesn't always look pretty. It's not like we feel really brave when we're doing it, but we're just like choose to show up with courage and choose to show up. And you did that. And I just want to really commend you and thank you for sharing that story because obviously everyone can follow you if they want to follow more details on it, but it's truly one of those stories that I love. I get chills when I listen to it because I'm like, oh, this is how we have our personal evolution by continuing to make those choices. But I think this is how we form this collective revolution, right? Like, okay, bye. Like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I'm not going to continue in this place of performing for the patriarchy, for these like white Eurocentric, like wellness, beauty standards. I'm not going to make myself smaller energetically or physically. Like, I just love that little middle finger energy. So thank you for sharing that. And, that obviously took you to like, kicked you on another catalyst journey. This is the Saturn return is always like fun, like chapters within chapters. And one of the things like I chose to put you in the chapter of the book that's like letting pleasure guide you instead of pressure. Because to me, what I love about your embodiment work and you being a body intelligence coach, it's not just have the body look good, which is maybe like some of the, fitness world stuff. And it's not even just being in the authoritative, intuitive center of your body, which is also very important. And we'll talk about that. But to me, like you are someone who just like really takes a bite out of the rich juiciness of like life and like what life has to offer, whether that's like traveling, whether that's the way you host events, whether that's like we talked about eating and fine dining, and whether that's like choosing yes to new adventures, and you're just like very present with life and you have such a joyful spirit. And that's what I think is like anyone who has, the luck and the blessings to work with you. It's just that you have an effervescence to you. So your life feels good. You feel good in it. You're, I think, guided by pleasure a lot. But like, what was kind of like one of the transitions, or what helped you begin to do that or realize that? Because obviously, I don't think that was like always the case. And we had this, we're leaving you in the story in this like kind of breakthrough moment with this big fitness brand that shall not be mentioned. But like, what started to help you like get out of that tunnel, that darkness a little bit and back into the place of like feeling like at home in your body again and feeling joy in your body?
This is such an incredible question. I see this a lot with, having studied bodies and studied people over the last just years and just being so intrigued and interested in the utility of our bodies, right? So what is the purpose of our body?
Mm.
And in a more esoteric perspective, one might say your body is a home for your soul, right? It's a place that your soul can drop down into and to experience the beauty of humanity, the peaks and the valleys and all of that. But I have found with clients that there's three main steps that I see happen in the beginning. So the first step, and I'll relate it to my journey to make it real, is the insight of the pain. Okay. So whether that is you get dropped publicly from a major deal, or you're almost passed out in a parking garage in front of all of your sold out class, right? Like you have these moments in life where life stops you in your tracks and creates a lot of pain and resistance. Now, when your body experiences dysregulation by that, we first need to get your body back into homeostasis. And that's where, a lot of our time together, that's what I was doing. I didn't have the language at the time, but I needed to. It took me at least, I would say, it took me on my own and with your support, like 2 years to really find how my body stays regulated and to live in it. And that's where sound healing, going to your yoga classes, beach walks. I walked on the beach like it was going out of style, honey. Like it was going out of style. Like they were closing up shop and it was like everything must go. Okay. I was in those streets, walking, 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 walking. And that's one thing that is, what a lot of people might not see, because it's maybe not as aesthetically pleasing for an algorithm. But it took patience, it took time, it took a lot of grace. And that was the second part, which is like finding that moment of homeostasis and stability. Then from there, what starts to happen, because humans, we have this insatiable drive and desire for adventure. We needed it. We're hardwired for it biologically. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been nomadic and we wouldn't have been able to sustain for thousands of years, right? So with that, after you get regulated, you start to go, I'm a little bit bored.
Totally.
You're like going to your classes, you're like doing the things, you're doing your rituals, and you're like, that it's important because it is. You got to come back to basics, but you start to feel that drive and that fire. Talk a lot about elements, the elements in my work. That fire starts to get lit again. And then that's really where I meet people in the intersection of my work is, what's going on. You've been through it. You're doing your therapy, you're drinking your water, you're minding your business, you're doing your thing. And now you are ready to be brave again and move in a different way. So those three stages, that's where it was for me. It's like, oh, okay, I'm ready to be brave again. I'm ready to take risks again. And we don't talk about that a lot, I think. And I'm saying the proverbial we, as I see this a lot through the lens of like spiritually bypassing of, right? Like, let's just sit down and journal and manifest your dreams. I'm like, okay, you can write them down, but this Cap Rising said you better get to work. Okay, you need to put in the reps. Okay,
to quote the great prophet Britney Spears, "You better work, bitch." Like you
better.
Yeah,
literally.
Like, that's cute and everything, but the Cap Rising is like, what are we going to do about it? Again, why I love the Earth sign culture. Like, what are we doing here? It's so true because it's so easy to stay in that place of like. Because you call it bored, and some people just feel like it's really safe. And to me, that is like another kind of version of the comfort zone. And I think that's also a little bit, if I may speak to, as always, I'd love to speak to the collective energy. But how we got in this mess, I think for a little bit was for many generations, people who found these esoteric tools and the energy work and even things like therapy or working with crystals or nature or ayahuasca. It was great, but then they healed. And then I think they're like, ooh, we're just going to stay back here where everything's lovely and nice, like in my yurt, in my, little, on my meditation cushion where everything is wonderful, right? And they were like, but truly, like, I love what you said about that third phase of like, it's time to be brave again. Now it's time to like put this into action. And that is exactly how I feel because now we need you out in the streets, like doing something with it, right? Whether it's like for making art, whether it's making peace in the world, whether it's like just showing up for your family more beautifully. But like, we need something that acts like that next growth edge of bravery. So I love that. Okay, keep going. But I just had to say, I was like, that you have me on the hook with this 3-step. I love a 3-step. Again, my Virgo culture. I'm like, check.
Yeah, check. So we have the inside of the pain point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second phase is like coming back pause. I'm making this up on the spot. Okay, we need to pause. Okay. Phase 2, and we need to come regulated. And then we get to drive towards our purpose and to our potential, and we get to be brave. And Maddie brought up, the buffalo medicine. Both Maddie and I have studied a lot of indigenous, like shamanic traditions, especially those of the Quechua people in Peru. And nature has all the answers you could ever need.
Yeah.
Literally has all the answers you could ever need. But that, for those of you who might be listening to this for the first time and never heard it, it said that, what's the difference between a herd of cattle and buffalo? When a storm comes, the buffalo will actually charge towards the storm because they know that if they run towards it, it'll be harder, it'll be more challenging, but they'll get through it sooner, versus a herd of cattle, which are known to like run away, and then they get tired and they slow down, and the storm just follows them and they stay in that painful state longer. So that's how I'll be honest, it's part of my makeup. And it was because we didn't talk about this, but how I was raised, I had a childhood that made me really strong, really young, really fast. And so I got that medicine very early. But there's something to be said about being brave and going towards it, and there's nothing wrong with coming home and meditating and sitting with spirit. All of that's really important so that you come from an embodied place. But just make sure that you are staying in the game. Stay in the game, because that's the only way you're going to disrupt a system, is if you're in it.
Fuck yes. Fuck yes to that. I'm just like, smashing into the air. Repost, share. I love that. And truly, I just want to call out because, again, like I said, it was interesting as a practice from like wanting to tell stories in my book, because I'm like, it's one thing to hear like, take your power back. And it's another thing to be like, here's what that looks like in my life or someone else's life, in all the messy details, but also the mundane, and also the expression of like, what that really looks like. And for you, like I said, it was hard to figure out. I'm like, do I picture her in the Capricorn chapter, or I figure in the Libra? I was like trying to figure out what key I wanted to put you in. But I think that what you just touched upon is so powerful to me. I ended up featuring you in the Taurus chapter, which is interesting because you don't have a lot of like Taurus placements or huge things going on, except for it's your major angle in your chart. It's your IC. It's your your cosmic root chakra. It's like where you find home in the world, which I also love because of your Taurus fiance, but I digress. But like the Taurus energy in terms of like your body and coming back in, and the somatics and the things of like being there, and kind of this feeling of, opposite that is your midheaven. I always say like your IC in general is like where we root down and ground down, so we can have a really strong sense of self and belonging, and feeling anchored into something within ourselves, so we can go out and fly really high, or grow really tall and big like a tree with really strong roots, and do those things that are a little bit scarier or more vulnerable or bigger. So, and it's like how we do that in our chart, looking at our IC really helps. And for you with Taurus, this being in the body, but the being in nature. And I love what you said about learning so much from nature. I know with like your shamanic path, I know with you had many journeys where nature sort of opened up something for you, whether that was your beach walks or being on the river. And I think it's just a really good reminder for all of us that like when the world feels really overwhelming, there is something like in our body and nature that are not just teaching us something, but there's like an interconnectedness that we can learn from. Like we're not inventing anything new for the first time. We're not the first like human, or not the first being to go through this. And you talk about that a little bit in your work, like unique versus special. But I just wanted to shout out the Taurus energy, just sliving, thriving through you. And we're going to shift into a little bit of like now what you do with your work. And I just into that, is there advice or just like a quick pep talk you'd want to give someone who's maybe listening and realizing, oh shit, me. Like that successful life on paper is actually like, it's slowly killing me. Not to sound dramatic, but I will be dramatic because I think that's what happens. Like our life force gets extinguished in one way or the other, whether through burnout or just through feeling so underwhelmed or underappreciated or just out of alignment. So is there something that comes to mind that you're like, okay, if you're feeling that, here's one thing I just want to say to you, or just some kind of advice or a word of encouragement?
You're meant to lead.
Oh.
That's the first thing that came through. If you're hearing this and you're going, I hear myself in this, there's a lot of dissonance. I'm not a person that is trying to be out of integrity, but it's just not working. you're probably in that system because you're meant to lead. So with that, everything that we're talking about, yes, stillness is important. Get really clear. Work with someone or with tools or rituals or whatever you have to really come home to yourself and really get clear on the point. You know, if we're lucky, we get what? If we're lucky, we get 80 years on this planet. And what do you want to do? What do they say, that quote, with your one wild and precious life? This is your life. This is your life. And you're hearing that whisper because it's the truth. And you get to lead and you know you're meant to lead. So there are ways for you to make that transition and know that you don't have to overhaul your whole life because it's very tempting. I know Madi many times was like, you don't need to pull a Britney, just breathe. Everybody just breathe. And you get to lead and you don't have to force your way through, but you get to know what's honestly true for you and start to figure out not if it's possible, but how.
I love that. But how exactly it is possible. Okay. And then, this is a great segue because I heard you say it right there about like coming home to yourself. So now you've, gone from this burnout recovery into your full embodied boss level brilliance and you're helping other people do the same. And you have this new signature program, Homecoming. What was the story? Well, 'cause I know there's inspiration. I know all that sad going on. There's a story. There's inspiration. What inspired you to create it? Who are the kind of people that are feeling called to it? And what results are people seeing through this work?
Great question. The inspiration was working in my one-to-one practice and truly attracting the most brilliant, wonderful, genius, innovative people. And noticing how there is a narrative that was a through line where they were so focused on healing and so focused on like staying in, but I can't lead because there was this destination that was never coming. And there's this shadow of, because you want to come from a place of integrity, the other side of that can sometimes be what some might call feeling like an imposter, like imposter syndrome, right? With that, I've heard this said too, like when you feel like an imposter, it's not that you're not meant to lead, but to be honest, you probably just need to put the reps in. Like you feel not ready because you haven't prepared, and that's okay. You need to just put more reps in, and everybody has to start somewhere. We all have to start, and we are afraid sometimes because, social media, or we see a colleague that's doing something else and we constantly are comparing ourselves. But at the end of the day, we have to move. And this is, especially right now, people are understandably in a state of feeling frozen. Understandably feeling frozen. And there is this, like, I would say, it's coming through, like Saturn and Aries shadow of being like, I'm just going to focus on me then. I just need to focus on me and take care of me. And it's like, well, so that you can what? Take care of you so that you can what? We hear a lot about, and like, I think the spiritual industries and like coaching space about the intersections of those, about the divine feminine. And anybody who's listening to this, and if you're driving, please do not close your eyes. But if you were to close your eyes and you think of the archetype of the divine feminine, many people would probably see, and I'm going to say this, a cis, white, hetero woman in a long linen dress somewhere in the woods who's just frolicking about. That being said, I don't look like that. I don't look like that, and I don't identify that way. So when I went back home to nature and said, okay, you are the mama, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. You want to know what I look to? I look to a mama lion. I look to the ocean. Okay? Treacherous. Like literally, does the ocean ask to crash upon the shore? No.
No.
Literally, no, the shore better get it together and hold it
No.
together. Because
Proceed
literally,
with caution. Proceed with caution because she's doing what she's going to do. She's ebbing and she's flowing. Okay.
she's
Like,
ebbing and she's flowing.
yeah. Yeah.
And so
Mm.
that's the archetype that I use is like the ocean and like a mama lion, she's not asking for permission to go hunt. She's going to go out there and get it. She's not laying on her
Yeah.
back underneath a tree.
No,
Okay.
like you said, she's not like holding her rose quartz and journaling and just being like, maybe my dinner will come to me and my cubs tonight if I just sit here, right? There is, again, it's this balance, right? And I think that's so beautiful. I remember like your big lioness moment, and I remember all, ahas, and it's so cool how that archetypal energy can just activate something in you. And so so we got to go, we got to move. And then, so back to homecoming. I'm so lost in the journey. I'm like a lioness, an ocean. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so that divine feminine energy and the Saturn and Aries shadow a little bit. So I'm hearing maybe some people are overwhelmed, understandably so. I mean, there's literally a technique happening right now called flood the zone, where it's like, hey, let's just flood the media zone so everyone just is in a state of paralysis. And so what does your work help? Like, how can you help people start to begin to shift out of that a little bit?
Yes. So I use a variety of different modalities in my body intelligence coaching work, one of which is very niche and it's called spinal energetics. And that work literally helps you to process stress faster. So it's about your nervous system's resiliency, and so much of the conversation lately has been about regulation. Regulation is stage 2 of that 3-part process. Resiliency is what is required to be able to dust yourself off and try again. Okay, we got to get up and get moving. So I do a lot of somatic coaching and really helping you to find the strategies that work for you with your lived experience. Like taking Madi, for example. You are doing a book launch. You have 2 kids. You have businesses. There are some strategies that are out there that are helpful for some, but maybe not for you. And so we work with cycle syncing, we work with spinal energetics, we work with all these things and take your actual calendar, your actual real life.
Earth sign culture.
Earth
like your
sign
actual
culture.
iCal. Like what is going on that calendar? Like, because it's a lot. We know. Like,
yes,
taking that into account. I love that.
Yes. And really making it, again, actionable. So we have a 4-part frame. And it is, don't think, just move. MOVE. So M stands for mobilize. When you have inspiration or you're feeling like you're in that chronic freeze, we need to either mobilize the idea, mobilize your body. We need to get action energy, that fire starter energy in the building. Then O is optimize. Once you've taken aligned action, you'll have the receipts to know how to make it better, know how to make it easier, know how to make it more optimized. Do we need to get AI involved? Do we need to get a funnel involved? Do we need to get a sitter? Like, what do we need to make this better? Then we have V, which is verify. Honey. Verify, which means you've taken action, M, you've made it better, O. Now verify, we're going to go back and we're going to test it against whatever we've established in the container, your values, your vision, your metrics, your actual goals. Do we need to pivot? And we're going to make sure that those things are actually happening. And then from there, E is once you've done all those 3 steps, you just execute. But we've done the work, and the people that work with me the people who listen to this podcast are already on that journey of, I know how to take care of myself, or I'm like really close to figuring it out. So we have that toolkit to then go, okay, now we can execute. And when you start to feel yourself come back up against that cycle, all right, what needs to move? What needs to be optimized? What do we need to verify against? And how are we going to execute? And we just repeat, rinse and repeat. And you can do that in almost anything, in my opinion. And I'll give an example. I'll give 2 simple examples, one that's personal, one that's professional. So let's start with like a personal. Let's say you're feeling stuck in a relationship that you know you shouldn't be in. And if you're in your Saturn return, get out now. Okay?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Who said that? Me? I'm talking to you. Okay? If you know that you're in a relationship for example, or a friendship that doesn't serve you and you're feeling frozen around it. How can I move the conversation forward? Oh, how can I make the conversation easier, optimize it? How can I start asking questions, create opportunities for us to connect? How can I verify against my values and my vision for my love life? And E, given all of that information, what am I going to do about it? Execute. Okay, so that's one example. Now, a professional example might be you have a business idea that you're really excited about, or you have a new product or an offer that you're really excited about. Okay. And I'm a manifesting generator. Okay. Aquarius moon, I got ideas. Okay. She's got visions. So I understand. But instead of staying and keeping it all in your notes app, here's what we're going to do. M, you have a good idea. What can we do in the next 2 weeks to move that idea along physically? Are you going to host a workshop? Are you going to post on your story about it? Are you going to do a poll? Okay. Are you going to get your friends over for a little kiki and just try something out? Okay. Oh, once you've done that, okay, now we've done it. How are we going to make it better? We're going to optimize. Then you're going to do it again, right? And make it better, get that flow, get that momentum. V, we're going to look back, see what worked, see what didn't. And we're going to measure that against your vision and your values. And then E, once we have all those receipts, baby, we are going to execute, we are going to run, and we are going to get that offer off the ground. So those are 2 ways that I just gave my whole framework. Okay, y'all are welcome.
You're welcome. Okay, this is a free ass pod. Go get her Venmo code and hit her up with that. Okay, she just gave us a whole free coaching session, personal and professional. Thank you very much. Oh my God, I love a frame. Okay, I love a framework. I love a 1, 2, 3 step. I love an acronym. It's just because again, there's times when we are frozen or overwhelmed or inundated. We're like, what are we do? Oh, right. Move. And again, I know the difference, you talking about it versus walking us through it. It's like, yeah, we all know we should do more planks or burpees, but are we going to do them unless someone's like helping us? Probably not. So it's like, I appreciate that you laid out the framework so generously, but nothing is ever going to be, working with someone who has your back, who's holding that space for you, who's keeping the energy going. And I just want to say 2 things. One, yeah, signing up for this is like, I think half of the work of working with someone who's as powerful as you is what I always like to call, and what I even say in my book is like transformation by transmission. Like the second you say yes, the second you're like, giddy up, mama's got the keys to the Jeep, vroom, like beep, beep, like we're in it. Before, I remember when you signed up for me, we're like, bye-bye. Like your guides, your ancestors were like, okay, bye-bye. Like she's ready. So I know that just by working with you, there's a transformation that happens just by being in your energy, being in your presence. And, I also want to say like how incredibly powerful especially the spinal energetics work you do. Like I had heard about it. I'm always like, Virgoing, like researching, listening what's going on. And I have a client who like does it. And I was like, okay, cool. And when you got into it, I was like, this makes a lot of sense for you. And you were really vibing. And then we did a session together leading up to the Aries eclipses. And I think it was just like, always like I'm trying to be intentional and plan things around astrology. But then usually it's just like when life, it's like, reschedule. Okay, well, let's do it now. And it just happened to be as we led into the Aries eclipses in 2023. And holy shit, like talk about getting me ready to move. Like, I think I just found out I was pregnant. There's the work, the business stuff, all that is boring because what you helped activate with me and my Aries sister was like, we had to make a split second decision to literally kidnap my mother, which for legal purposes, I'll leave the story there. But it was the best decision we ever made. We had literally 45 minutes to make the decision. And my old Virgo, good girl complex shadow could have been like, well, I don't want to upset anyone and all this stuff. But it was a decision, when I say I could tear up, that changed the course of our family history, story. A new karmic path was set forward in that moment because we all were like, F it. Like, I'm crying thinking about it. And I remember being like, whoa, like it like got me ready for something. And during the session, I was like, you are preparing for something like battle, but we don't know what it is. And the last time I felt that way was like the Starbucks story that I talked about in the book. So I'm like, and you really helped get me there. And then that unleashed like a whole crazy, year of my life. But I think back to that session and I was like, and you saying this move now framework makes sense because that's how I felt. I felt ready to just do the damn thing and not hesitate and not be in that place of like waffling or trying to like make everyone happy when I knew damn well what was the best thing to do. So I just want to thank you for that. Okay. We can put that as a testimonial on your site. If you ever need to get ready to kidnap your mother and disrupt some bad karma and start a new family story of healing, celebration, and reclamation, then treat yourself to a session with this woman. Okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh, exactly that. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just hearing you say that you took action at the time when you needed to and you didn't wait. You didn't wait. And so much of us, we sit and we wait and we think that indecision is not a decision. You not deciding is a decision. Time does not stop. And that's not to put fear in anybody's heart, but it is to call you in of for every second that you're waiting, there's something that is being missed. So just don't forget about that. And you get to move powerfully, and the world is really ready for it.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay. So as we start to let's begin the slow process of wrapping this all up with a nice little bow and some tissue paper for everyone at home, I do want to shout out one more tool of yours that I think could really help people understand what this means, for them personally, maybe a little bit more like specifically, because I love all your tools you offer. Can you walk us through? I just took the quiz. What wild animal, talking about nature again, what wild animal runs your subconscious? This is such a genius tool. Can you tell us a little bit about the animal archetypes and how they can help people like reconnect to their intuition?
Yes. So when you come into my world, I will invite you to take this quiz. Again, she said, what wild animal runs your subconscious? It is based off of what we know about attachment theory, so your attachment style in relationships, and nervous system research, and just linked in with a cute little shamanic archetype bow, which we love. But we use those three things to really help you in 10 questions understand your natural response to challenge, to stress, and to fear. And with that, there's the ability for you to then be empowered, not to just know, right? Like, oh, I'm in a chronic freeze, or oh, I'm stressed out. If you're hearing this, you're like, oh, I need to take this. You're stressed out and that you have challenge in your life. But really to then go, how can I actually leverage it? And that's the thing that's different about my work, I believe, is instead of going, oh, you're in a chronic freeze state, like you just need to like lay down, drink some water, do some yoga. Have you tried breath work? Like, girl, yes, I have tried breath work, girl. Of course I have. Hello.
Hello, duh. I'm a human with internet access in 2025. Yeah.
Literally, I'm breathing now. Give me something. So not to discount breath work, it's a very good tool. But if you are in a specific state in my coaching program, I can say, okay, we're in the deer response right now. We're in the eagle response right now. We're in the bear response right now. And we can go, okay, well, how can we actually leverage it? If you're in a fight response, you brought up anger earlier. I'm going to use that as an example. So my eagle archetype is the fight response, a chronic like fight. Instead of going, oh, you just need to calm down, you're the one, Maddie, who you taught me this phrase of that sacred rage. How can you take that fight response and go, okay, well, what am I angry about? And how can I go, what? How can I bridge between my sacred rage and what's mine to do? And then I will help you create a strategy to leverage your fight response, to take it and alchemize it rather than shame you and going, oh, I'm just too overstimulated. I can't do it.
Yes, I fucking love that. I love the alchemy that's happening. I love the action. And it's such a good example because I feel like I keep telling people right now between having two under two and just being a tired ass mama, the thing that gets me out of bed a lot of these days is I am 100% fueled by Nespresso pods and sacred rage. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm too tired to do this. I could just give up. I could just lay in bed and watch. What's the show everyone's watching? Love Island? That sounds good. And then I'm just like, I gotta channel this into something. Hit me up with another shot of caffeine. We got this. And then it feels good, right? You're working through it. So I love your work for that reason, because we need that more than ever. And just kind of shifting, back to you. Everyone definitely will link all of this, in the show notes to take that. I love a quiz. It's very insightful. It's very helpful. And again, words build worlds, and be able to have a framework, be able to name something, being able to materialize something we're feeling, never underestimate the impact of that. But for you, for Shantani, from professional dancer to celebrity trainer to now nervous system sage, how in your life right now, personally, how has your definition of success changed?
Such great questions, Maddie.
Okay.
How's my definition of success changed? Well, in the beginning of this story that we started on this, this conversation with, my success was determined by what everybody else thought of me. It was determined by validation from everyone else's perception that I had a false sense that I could control. I was trying so hard to manipulate, and to be honest, it's a big shadow. It's a big Libra shadow of trying to manipulate other people's perception of you and kind of pull the wool over their eyes, and just so that you could fit in. So that was my old definition of success. And now I really measure it up against what is mine to do and what do I know? I've done the work to know deeply what is mine to do. Am I staying in integrity? Am I also, gosh, this could be a whole other episode, but am I showing up in my real ass life? Am I calling my mom?
Oh, but we always talk about that, right? It's hello, right? The real
Literally.
ass life stuff. Yes.
That's huge, because I think of, I believe and I've seen we will go to the ends of the earth. This is the proverbial we, and not anybody on this call, but we will go to the ends of the earth to try to heal the entire world before we come back home and do our work. And that is a huge shadow that comes up in these industries, in our industries. I mean, we're a part of it, and we have to hold the standard of saying, yeah, okay, you might be able to lead this incredible experience for hundreds of people, but behind closed doors, are you who you say you are? And pull back the curtain on a lot of people, because I know them intimately, and it's not to shame, but it's are you doing what you said that you're doing? So that's how I measure my success. Am I being the person that I say I am? Is my life a reflection of my values? And when you come into my world and when you meet me or you talk to me, I'm human just like the rest of us. And also, we're all just walking each other home. And I just want to connect with as many people with my hopefully 80 years here on this planet, and just really revel in the gift that is life. Life is such a gift. And even in those moments where it's really hard, I'm not going to spiritually bypass on this podcast. I'm not saying that you have to be love and light for every moment, but as long as you still have life, you still have time.
That's so good. Wow. So many beautiful parts of your chart just popping off there with so much poetry and truth and love. And yeah, it's just to kind of recap on that, what I was saying in the beginning, I know you were actually talking, and I just sort of had an intimate behind the scenes look at someone. I won't name names or even industries, but they're a philanthropist. And I just found out they don't they're a really shitty father or parent. They're a man. Okay, whatever. Spoiler alert. Well, that really narrow things down, I'm sure, for anyone. I was yeah, not surprised. But I remember being that kind of sucks. But it's easier in some ways, right? To go out there and do all the things. And like you said in the beginning, I'm going to heal the world. And it's okay, well, how about your relationship with yourself? And then are you doing those things that aren't sexy or for Instagram likes? Yeah, are you checking in? And I think as someone who has a Libra stellium, I love that you brought up just that relational thing, right? The quality of our relationships determining the quality of our lives. Esther Perel says and just coming back home to ourselves. And I'm thinking about you and your Taurus, I see, and this thing, you really went on a journey to come home to yourself, but deep within yourself, deep home within ancient parts of you. And now that you get to do that for other people is so, so, so special. And while you're talking, I do just want to give someone a practical tool also, if they're listening. You have a Libra stellium. So that means you have, 3 or more planets in Libra. You have a lot of lovely Libra in your chart, which is why you're so gracious, why you're, I think, a pretty bitch, if I may. It's
Thank
why
you.
that's why you're so good at bringing everyone in, and with your Aquarius moon. But that Libra stellium, it's so important to understand, especially if we have a stellium, we have a lot of something in our chart. It's so important to know what that energy is in the light and in the shadow of it, and know what it means and we live within the light and shadow, even within a day. It's not like we're ever going to like land one spot forever, but being aware of what those feel like. And when we're tipping out of balance, where we're living in a balanced, like embodied state of them. And that sometimes the medicine, especially if we have a stellium, is to look at the opposite sign. And I feel like so much of your work you're doing right now, especially like in the body intelligence, but especially in homecoming, it's like helping people trust their positive, higher consciousness of their Aries. Like we talked about, shadow Aries can be like, I'm just gonna focus on me. But a high consciousness Aries to me is pure animal instinct. It's like working on that first hit. Again, back to that Aries eclipse, my Aries sister helped kick it off and I just got to be along for the ride. It's like, it's that animal side of us that's just like, whoop, something, is wrong and I'm going to go. And I think it's a really cool, again, like tangible example of how to work with the chart and the keys I talk about in my book. If you have a lot of one sign in your chart, I talk about in the book, look at the opposite sign, right? And study that, because it might be time to like bring a little of that in as your secret sauce. And, you are just, again, like why I'm interviewing you, someone I think is really living in your cosmic zone. And it doesn't mean that life is perfect. It doesn't mean we have it all figured out. It's actually kind of quite the opposite. It's more that we're just following like the next intuitive yes, and knowing what keeps us in alignment, right? What keeps us in alignment. And we get to actually just be really present, be our authentic selves, hopefully enjoy it. That's something too I talk about in your chapter of like, why are we doing all of this if we're not having a little bit of fun and being our bodies? And again, not in a bypassing way, but like you said, we have this one wild and precious life. Let's be here now with it. So thank you for modeling and being so generous with your storytelling and your wisdom of what it really means to be in the cosmic zone. And I want to close out by asking you, I think what's cool about my work is that I get to work with people who are sometimes very early in their journey or like in their Saturn return and like stepping into the cosmic zone for the first time. But there's one thing I've learned from my mentees, from my clients, from my own damn life, is that life will keep asking you, like you said, keep asking you to go to that place of being brave, kind of go to that like growth edge, kind of look at, ooh, comfort zone is there. It's so nice there. That Love Island is there. It's cozy. I could just kind of be happy there, my meditation pillow. But we're all being asked, especially now more than ever, to expand into that unknown, but that beautifully, wildly alive, aligned place of the cosmic zone. So is there anything coming up for you personally, professionally, that you just want to share with it? Like, ooh, this is my next thing that gives me a little tingles, that helps me tap back into that adventure spirit you were talking about before.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. The first thing, well, speaking of your book, I know that I'm living my book.
Yes, 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 yes.
This is the first time I'm saying it live, so you're hearing it live. But I believe that was the first thing that came in when you said that, is like, and just to reiterate what you said, Madi, like we're all in this journey together. And it's that spiral staircase that you talk a lot about in your work, where we're just going around and around and we come back to the same place, but from a different vantage point, right? And my next edge where I begin again will be my book, my first book. And I'm really, really like grateful to know people like you and who just paved the way, carved the way. And I can go, okay, if Maddie can do it, I can do it. But that's what I'm really excited about. And, just to continue to serve people in my community, to serve my clients to the highest capacity and the fullest capacity. And really, for me, I'll say this is it is, you talk a lot about the revolution. To me, it is revolutionary when the people, when the artists, when the creatives, when the medicine givers come out of the shadows and they have what they need to mobilize, to move, and to come from a place that is embodied and real and rooted in integrity. And that's what my work is here to do. That's the revolution that I'm here leading, is you get to take up space, you get to speak your truth, you get to get out there and make noise and ruffle feathers and change the system. And it starts with you. So those things are the things that I'm the most excited about. And if you're listening to this and you're like, that's me, please take that quiz, come into my world, DM me, because Maddie always says, we're starting a revolution, baby.
Honey, it's right here. Okay, you got me doing when my mom was really excited, she'd go like this. And when you said that book thing, I was like, and then you're talking the revolution. I'm like, so yes, it's so good. Okay, well, Shantani, we will link where to find you, everything, your website, your quiz here. We'll have your Instagram there. Is there anything that we just didn't get to say or anything you just want to like circle up on before we close out and just this delicious conversation?
Let's practice what we preach and breathe into it, baby. I'm just calling all of you in, all of us in. And I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have come into your world, Madi, and to be able to experience my own cosmic revolution literally through your work and to be able to share that in my own way, in mine. And yeah, the last thing that I'll say is exactly what I said before, which is if you're feeling that whisper, if you're hearing that whisper, it's time. It's time. And life is on your side and the universe has your back and Madi has your back and I have your back. And I would love to work with you and support you and root for you and like all your posts and help you lead your own personal revolution. So thank you so much for having me here, Madi, and buy the book and be on the lookout for my book. And we love you, baddies.
We love you. I mean, come on. You got these two bad bitches on your side, at your back. What can you not do right now? I love that.
Unstoppable.
I love that.
Unstoppable.
So good. Well, Shantani, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for letting me use a little bit of your story in the book to hopefully inspire others or ignite something in them, remind them of something. And everyone go find, follow, interact with Shantani. I promise you, your life will be better for it. So thank you so much. Thank you, Shantani. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, Madi.
Do you love getting your Cosmic RX for the week here and want more? Make sure to sign up for our premium subscription so you can get exclusive access to bonus podcast episodes, all of my astrology info for the month ahead, and live new and full moon calls to help you manifest your dream life with an intentional, international community of other cosmic baddies. Sign up through our link in show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to know more about Cosmic RX, head on over to thecosmicrx.com. And if you really love this show, I'd love it if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. I super love hearing from you and reading your reviews. All right, you cosmic baddie, tune in next week. And until then, remember, love yourself fully, work your magic, and take no shit.